Good morning, Wonder Women of the World. This is Ilona Budapesti from 1 Million Women to Tech. All right, people are already in the room. Elle, Veronica, Sea Lion, wonderful to see you. Sea Lion, I need to apologize to you because I would like to meet with you personally. I sent you a little note on Discord. So nice to see you. Monica Sabo, Gabrielle Lang, Tikviza, I just replied to your help desk request. Thank you for deciding to be a VIP member. We figured a way to do it, so please check your email. Hi, Irans, L. Andrea. Morning, everybody. Good morning. I wanted to say a few things. Mentors yesterday were looking for all of you, and I assume that you are looking for the mentors. So this means that it is not the computer part, it's the human part that's more difficult. If you are inside of Discord, inside the gold channels, please post your questions as you are working, and I will be posting into the mentor channels and requesting them to come and join you. Ideally, what would happen is that you are able to create a screen sharing session together, or at least chat and help each other. Yes, I received some feedback yesterday that the banner was actually hiding some valuable information, and I was asked to take it down, but didn't want to completely remove the branding, and so we're trying out this transparent. It's harder than I thought. Okay, this transparent header. Please let me know if that's better. Okay, ready to code? Good. Let's get going. Today we are going to move on from numbers to letters. Actually, we never leave numbers because everything is numbers. But today we're going to work on letters, words, and text. We refer to these in programming as strings. Think of them as little beads of letters that are strung together. To make it easier to see just what part of the code is a string, we can ask for some syntax highlighting, such as this. So here in Sublime Text, a string turned green. And if we try it also in the .py extension, you will see that strings are turning yellow. Cool. As you can see, strings can have punctuation, such as dots. They can have symbols. They can have spaces between them. It's not just letters. So actually the last string here doesn't mean there is empty space in it, but even this string here where there's nothing between the brackets is meaningful. It's quite important. We call it the empty string. Okay, we have used print before to print numbers. Let's try it with some strings. This is the ultimate first program of most programmers: print hello world, print empty, print hello world. So let's try that in our calculator. Actually, I'm going to stay in the calculator because what would be nice is to show you the comparison between strings and numbers. Okay, so let's look at that. So we'll print hello world, and let's see here, I'm going to make this a little bigger. What do you say? Is that a little better? Yeah, so let's do Python calc.py. Oh yeah, because I've been pre-shadowing things here. Okay. Okay, then there is hello world. Now, as you can see, there are lots of things in here previously from day one that we don't want to see. And there are two ways of doing it. One is you can just start a new file, and that's perfectly okay. But sometimes when you're doing exploration and you just want to try a few things before you finalize your code, what you can do is you can take some code, and for me it's Command and the angle. This way I'm able to turn all of these now into comments. And I'm going to uncomment this line here. So actually when we run it, this will be the only line that runs, because now all the other lines are comments in the program. The Python interpreter is going to ignore them. So hopefully what we see here is just one line which says hello world. And that's good. I think I can make this even a little bigger. Let's see. That's a little too big, right? Okay, awesome. So now we have hello world. Great. Let's try the other ones as well. We are ready now to rock on and rock and roll. If I save it and I come here and run it, what you see me do it so quickly why I don't have to type is because I'm using the up down arrows. So actually the up arrows, if you have one on your keyboard, allows you to go back and repeat your previous commands so you don't have to retype them. So actually what I'm doing is I'm just hitting the up button, up arrow, and then enter. Ah, hello world, an empty line because it's an empty string, and goodbye. So you can see the empty string actually created a new line. Changing browsers worked. Nothing is too easy. Amelia Stirnkreuz, Ilona, any suggestions after each lecture on what beginners should read more into in order to keep up with the rest? What I would suggest is what we are following here right now is Chris Pine's Learn to Code. You'll see this in the GitHub where the syllabus lives. And if you wanted to just read that book, this is what we're following. He does it in Ruby. I'm doing it in Python. And in week 5, we'll do it in JavaScript. I think it is the best beginner resource. But the truth is, if you're a beginner, I don't recommend you read. I recommend you write. Amelia, does that make sense? Because even if you just take a print method, a print function, and you try something inside it, and maybe you break it and you get an error message. Voila, that's great. And then you read the error message and you see like, oh, what is that? What is it unhappy about? And the more you just do this kind of, some people call it tinkering. I really like that word, tinkering. So if you're a beginner, I'd much rather that you tinker for an hour than you read, because there's enough exercises in here that you can go on for several days. So that would be my suggestion. That's Ruby and it's kind of confusing for the beginner, Andrea says. Okay, then maybe just go do the exercises and find the mentors. Find the mentors on Discord. And if there's an exercise that's too difficult for you alone, then together with somebody, pair program. So that means that you're sharing your screen a little bit, well, not a little bit, exactly like the way I'm doing it. And you're asking a question and you're like, I typed, I don't know, let's do this. I took out this, do you see I took out a apostrophe? So you're like, oh yeah, this is my code, and then let's save it. When I run it, and you're like, oh, I'm getting an error here, it's not running, what do I do? And then the mentor will be like, oh, let's read it. It says file, calc.py, line 14. Here at the end of the bracket, there's a little sign. Syntax error, EOL while scanning string literal. To be honest, if you've never seen this, you go and Google it. What the heck is EOL? I can tell you it's end of line. But the way you know it is you try. Yeah, okay. If you wanted to, I mean, if you're an adult, the Python documentation will have documentation on every built-in function, including print and so on. So that is quite good. Don't shy away. I mean, tell them to be nice, obviously. Sometimes advanced developers doesn't mean they know how to mentor or how to teach, so we have to be gentle with them. It's possible that you actually have a higher emotional intelligence than the programmer, but it's wonderful. You can trade skills, you know, you can teach them how to be good mentors and kind and how to give feedback, and they can share with you what they know about technology. So that would be my answer. Let's continue. So we have hello world and goodbye. I think that's clear. Let's do a little bit of string arithmetic. What does that mean? That means mathematics using letters. Strings are letters. Arithmetic is, well, in this case, mathematics. Just as you can do arithmetic on numbers, you can also do arithmetic on strings. Well, sort of. You can add them anyway, and actually you can multiply them. Let's try to add two strings and see what print does with it. So let's print, I like apple pie. Does anybody like apple pie? I like chocolate cake. I'm going to change this to chocolate cake. You can change it to what you like. How did I make it? Anke Wu, for me, when I did this command and slash, for me it's because of Sublime Text. It might not be set up for you. If it's not, then you'll have to do a Google search, something like your text editor's name, let's say Atom, and then add the version, like I don't know what Atom is right now, so 1.5.2. How do I do multi-line comments in Python? Cool. So I like chocolate cake. Let's run it. Ooh, I like chocolate cake. It's not bad, but I don't know if you can see here in the middle, we're missing the space. And that's because computers do what you tell them, not what you wish. And here, you just told them to put these two together. So like chocolate, I like chocolate cake. So I guess I'm a cake that is a like chocolate type. So we forgot to put the space between I like and apple pie. The spaces usually don't matter much in your code, but they do matter inside of strings. What does that mean? Inside of the code, that's also a little bit, I need to say, spaces, for Python, they do matter, because in Python, spaces are the levels of indentation. So this is not so true in Python as it is in Ruby, but it's permissible in Python to have a space here, for example, and a space here, and you won't get an error. So spaces outside of strings don't affect us as much as they do inside of the strings. So, oops, print, not puts. Puts is the Ruby. So let's try some of these as well. What we're doing is we're adding a space first here after like, and then we're adding it before apple. So technically speaking, the space is in a different place, but if you print it out, you see they look the same. I like space apple pie is fine. Cool. Galina Mary, if you have trouble starting Python programs from the terminal from Windows, the biggest advice I would say right now, get onto the Discord channel and say this exactly. Just copy and paste this line that you said and paste it into the gold channel, and I'll send mentors to help you. In fact, come to the Q&A, Galina, and if you and Katalin are online, I can demo with you if you're willing. You can come and be the demo mentee, and you'll have to install the screen sharing into your browser so that when you're on Discord, you can show me how your screen looks like. Awesome. Lovely. I love how you're helping each other already. Consuela Carrington, Anke Wu, Rebecca, well done. Ashkan Consortia, yes, we can't break the computer with the print command, so just mess around. Great. You can add strings, but you can even multiply them. I know you wanted to ask me. You were like, but Ilona, can we please multiply them? Yes, yes, you can. Watch this. If we type print blink times 4, you will get this, betting her eyes. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Not even Python is that clever. Let's run it. We are expecting to see blink, 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 blink. Let's comment this out. And we have blink, 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 blink. Actually, there's a space here after the blink that you cannot see because we have blink and a space that we multiplied 4 times. Okay, who says it's working? Right. Great. Okay. So if you think about it, this makes sense. After all, 7 times 3 really makes 7. Plus 7 plus 7. So mu times 3 means mu plus mu plus mu. Let's try it. I actually sneaked in something here. I don't know if you noticed this, but I sneaked in the Python interpreter. I haven't showed you how to use it yet. So far today, we've been only using the text editor. So actually, I will stay with the text editor and just use it that way. If you know how to use the Python interpreter though, it's also a nice way to practice and mess around there. Okay, so we have mu, mu, mu. Cool, everything. Can I get some thumbs up? This is simple, right? But can we do everything? Can we do, for example, divide by 3? Let's try it, right? So this is where the tinkering starts. It's like, oh, so we can do multiplication. Can we do division? Let's have a look. You do something like this, and it goes error, type error, unsupported operand types for division, string and integer. And you're like, oh, here's a string and here's an integer. It said, okay, I can't, it's unsupported. The computer doesn't know what to do. So, and what's nice about it, I don't know if you can see this, but it tells you which line the problem is in. It says to you which file it is in. It says file calc.py, and it's in line 22. So for problem shooting, once you have, you know, let's say 5 files, 10 files, 100 files, it's really, really, really nice to be able to see exactly which file and which line the program hung up on. And this one is really nice about Python. It's much easier to debug than is JavaScript because it gives you usually very clear indications of what's messed up. So it didn't like the mu divided by 3. So I'm afraid we can't divide. Now let's make the distinction between the number 12 and the string 12. Awesome. Love it. I love it. Wonderful. Let's take it further. So 12 is a number, but 1, 2 actually is a string of 2 digits. If we print these out, we get actually different results. Are we ready? Let's do it. Now we are really moving away from calculation and getting into strings, but let's have a look. So I go back, we run it. The number 12 plus number 12 is, of course, 24. If we add the strings 1, 2 and 1, 2, but we're using the operator plus, then it, what we call concatenates them, they puts them together. So 1, 2 concatenated with 1, 2 is 1, 2, 1, 2. And if we just have a string that is 1, 2 space, a plus sign, space, a 1 and a 2, then we actually write out that string on the output. What's interesting is here, once you're on the output, once you're on the print side of things, you don't know whether it's a number or a string. It just gives you strings, right? You don't have an idea if this came from a number or a string, so that has to happen in your code. How about this? Let's have a look. Now we're doing multiplication. Let's again turn this off. I'll add some space for us on the bottom. Oh, nice, interesting. Okay, cool. Did I save it? Save. Run. Oh, so 2 times 5, no surprise, is 10. Now the digit 2, or the letter 2, here in the string, 5 times repeated, is a 2 and 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 a 2. I think I'm being mirrored, so for you it looks like this. Yeah, wow. Okay, that's really hard for me. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, cool. And if you write out the string at 2 space star space 5, then that's what you see in the comment. These examples are pretty clear, but if you're not careful how you mix your strings and your numbers, you might run into problems. So this is really for the very beginners. I would love you to take this code and run it in your own files and break it and try it and mix it. Oh, M. Catalin says she already figured the questions for yesterday. Awesome. Sea Lion says, yes, it's very helpful for us. Sea Lion, thank you. If you can change your screen names inside of Discord, we started doing it and requesting. But if you have gold access and then you put gold after your name, then it just helps us a little bit. We will still have to check on the back end, but it helps us. Hello, everyone. Marva, Daniela. Very good. So we've tried some things that didn't work. For example, we tried mixing, right? Numbers and letters. So let's have a look here. This is this example. What happens if we mix the string and the number 12? Well, it will complain. It will complain. It says on line 32, you cannot convert integer object to string implicitly. So it's trying to, what it's trying to do, it's trying to take this string and convert it into, sorry, it's trying to take an integer object and turn it into a string, but it cannot do it implicitly. So the only way to do this would be to turn this into a string, something like this. This will take the number 12, turn it into a string. Let's look at it. And now it's happy. It says, okay, I can add a string in a string. I know how to do that. I'm fine with that, right? But I can't do it without it. So I think this is really nice because you get to see error messages. And error messages are your friend. I love them. The better your error messages are, and sometimes you can write your own custom error messages, to be honest, once you get into more writing your own programs. Sometimes you want the machine to tell you if something strange is happening, like the user gave you some stupid answer or something like that. Then you can throw an error that actually you decide what it says inside. Okay, so we have this type error. Let me share it here with you because the line numbers changed. It used to be on line 13, now it's line 32. Awesome. And I'll leave here my solution for you, which was to convert, right? We'll convert the integer into a string, and then it will be happy. Except it won't run when we have an error. It stops. Once there's an error, Python stops in its tracks and doesn't continue. Lovely. So we have a problem and solution. Let's look at another problem. What happens if you try to multiply two strings together? Well, let's have a look. It says can't multiply sequence by non-integer of type string. Actually, so this would be okay. What it's complaining about is the second part. You say you cannot multiply by a string because I don't know exactly. Okay, because this string could have been A, or this string could have been Sea Lion. Is that okay if I showed this? Yeah, it's difficult to understand what do you mean by multiply by Sea Lion, right? Because we don't know. So this is what it's complaining about. Oh, wonderful. I really love what's going on here. All right. So it is saying, hey, you can't multiply by something that's a string. Error messages are really important. If you get good at reading and understanding error messages, you will be a superstar in software engineering. I tell you why. Because I would say a good 80% of your time writing is actually spent on debugging. So you write your code, you think everything's perfect, you planned it, you drew out the diagrams, you know what you want to do, you do it, and then you're like, oh my God, this is not working, this is not working. So you spend 80% of the time bug fixing. And so it's really helpful to learn. I think this is one of the skills that stops a lot of beginners from becoming productive engineers. And if we can emphasize this from the beginning, that you learn so much from the error messages, then you can focus on that and read up on that. You can Google them, you can search on Stack Overflow, and you can become autonomous learner and autonomous coder. Autonomous meaning you can help yourself. You are creative. When you run into a problem, you know where to reach out to find help and then complete your problems. Everyone's coming to the Gold Channel. Wonderful. Yeah, please help us. I think the mentors are eager and looking. It is a bigger endeavor than all of us thought. So we'll have to find the best ways to really organize ourselves well. And Sea Lion, actually, I would love your help. I understand you have amazing experience with communities. We certainly need your help. So again, I apologize that I couldn't speak with you then. I'm so sorry. And would love your help to maybe communicate with both the mentors and also the learners and help everyone. Good. Okay, multiply string by string. Let's try this. So we are trying to find some issues. Let's see how they work out. So we already know this is not liked. This one here. Let's see, how about Betty plus 12? Cannot convert integer object to string implicitly. It's the same as above. And again, the name by name will be similar. Francesca is okay, but how do you multiply by Hannah? What on earth does that mean to multiply by Hannah? Yeah, we cannot multiply a sequence by a non-integer of type string. Cool. Here's something you must be aware of. Yeah, this is explained here with pig times 5 and 5 times pig. You can read it when I push. Finally, if you want a program to print out, for example, you are swell, and notice there is a little apostrophe in the middle. That's tricky, right? Because we're using apostrophes to say this is a string. And then you have an apostrophe in the middle. So let's take this. This is really, really, really important. You won't believe how many times, even as an experienced software engineer, you will make mistakes like this. Hopefully not. You will never make mistakes like that, of course. Yeah, you will never make it. It's just, myself, you will never make mistakes like this. But actually, you can tell from the syntax highlighting that something's going on. It's a little unhappy here because you know what's happening. This is where you opened the parentheses, and I saw a comment here. Was it Margarita? Who was it who said, using double and single quotations is helpful? But sometimes you forget to, right? Because we're lazy, and the single quotation doesn't require you to push the shift, so you just use single notation. Let's have a look of how Python complains. Look, it's really, really sweet. I love Python for this. It tells you which file, it tells you which line. It even shows you, look at this, it shows you the position with a little caret sign, right, of where the problem is, and it tells you whether it's a type error or something else. Here's a syntax error. So it just means, hey, you screwed up the syntax. And voila, we're like, okay, yeah, maybe it's okay. So there are several ways of fixing this. You see, I was playing here on the interpreter. Okay. Invalid syntax. So it's not so difficult. One of the ways to, of course, fix it is to make these double quotations. Good job, whoever said it. I think Margarita, right? Why is it doing that? Oh, here. Okay. And you're swell. That's very nice. But there's also another way that is really worth learning, and that is escaping characters. Escaping characters. This is a technical term if you're new. You can tell the program that I actually wanted that single apostrophe in there. So the computer cannot know because it's the same. If I undo this, like here, the computer cannot tell that this is the opening one and this is the closing one and you wanted this in the middle. You have to tell it. To be honest, the computer has the right to decide that this is the closing single quotation mark. But we can tell it, and this is syntax. This just, you need to learn. This is not something that's logical. You just have to learn it, and then from then on it's logical and you can use it. But the way to escape in Python and many languages is to use a backslash. Well, again, I think in your screen. Oh gosh, this is mirrored for me. Yeah, like this. Yeah, okay, yeah. So anyway, you see that this is the backslash. And so if we try that, this is really important. Please try this. You see, do you see that? The syntax highlighting picked up already. And now if I do that, it should say, whoo, you got it, you're swell. So play around with syntax highlighting, play around with escaping characters. And here's a challenge for you. Escape characters must always escape themselves. So if you wanted to have a backslash, then a backslash could just appear as a backslash, or if you do backslash backslash, it will still escape itself. Why? I think I should put this into the homework, or try this submission. Yeah. Or explain this. Good. The backslash is the escape character. It's translated into something new. Let's see some examples here. We have the first one already, actually. Good. And now you can see that we have a backslash at the end of the string. We escaped it. If you escape itself up and down, it shows only once. And escape D didn't actually escape the down character, the D character, it just showed up as down. So the last two, line 42 and line 43, are equivalent when they are output. They just look different in your code. So far so good? Okay, let's try something more clever. And this is the sort of part where you start really programming. This is really, really exciting. Actually, before I go there, would you like to hear a little anecdote? I wanted to give you an anecdote about spaces, about the missing spaces. We were working on I Like Pie with the spaces, and I thought that a little anecdote from real life might help you. This is real story. I have a good friend in Silicon Valley who is my, I would say, not just friend, but really a career mentor. One of them. I'm very grateful. And this engineer spent 25 plus years, I think, already in the industry, has switched careers or switched technologies 8 times. Yeah. And I remember one time there was a big project they were working on, a database architect and migration. And he spent 8 hours trying to find a bug. One of their SQL queries wouldn't run. 8 hours. And in the very end, you know what happened? He found out that somebody pushed a piece of code into the repository where there was an extra space somewhere here. Like, okay, if I take line 17, I don't know if you can even see it. There's a little dot, a dark dot there in my text editor. Somebody left a little line like this. And I told you that usually in code your spaces don't matter. Well, except when they do. So this SQL query was broken because there was an empty space at the end of the line. And for the human eye, it was invisible. And the error reporting is not detailed enough in SQL to tell you exactly where it broke down. So he did sort of a binary search, if you know what that means. I asked him, how did you do it? Because it's thousands and thousands, well, I think more than 70,000 lines of code. I mean, how do you find a needle in the haystack? Plus, he didn't know what he was looking for. And what you do is you cut the code into half and you run it, or as much as you possible. You pick a piece and you run it. If it runs, okay, that's not a problem. You pick the other part that didn't run. And then you start narrowing down, narrowing down, narrowing down. And then the problem was, because it was not humanly visible, the code looked okay. He didn't believe many of the results, right? So it took him 8 hours. And this is, in my view, a super engineer, somebody who is fantastic. So imagine if somebody with lesser coding experience or less experience in general, it's possible that you would have spent not 8 hours, but a week finding one single little space character. And so it's a very real thing. And unfortunately, it doesn't only happen to beginners. All right, can I get a thumbs up if you like the anecdotes? Little B in the chat. And then, as your reward, we can go into the variables, which is now real programming starting to start. Tikwiza says little B. Good. Awesome. Christina says, oh, Gabrielle gave lots of thumbs up. So awesome. Great. So here we jump in now to variables and assignment. So far we have printed a string or a number, but once we printed, everything was gone. So that means if we wanted to print something out twice, we would have to type it in twice, or at least copy and paste it. Yeah, copying and pasting is also twice. Shall we start a new file? Let's start a new file. Okay. You see there's no syntax highlighting. Now if I save it, let's call this variables, vars. And instead of MB, we call them pi. You have used the extension pi at the end of the name. The standard extension is MB. I want to use pi. You bet I want to use pi. Okay, good. And now it's happy. Let me move this out of your viewport. How's that? Cool. So if you say again and say again, let's just double check that the file is here. I did ls for listing, and there's vars.py. That's great. So that means I can run it. The way to run it is python vars.py. Great, there's no surprise so far. But the problem is, as software engineers, we don't want to repeat ourselves. This is a really important principle. Don't repeat yourself. If you're doing the same command, the same instruction, even twice, you want to program it and extrapolate. You don't want to do it. This is my Ilona's version principle. Ilona's version of the same principle. Okay, I've heard this before, and I think it's actually harder to do than you think. When coding, be lazy. And not just lazy, but aggressively, proactively lazy. Can we get some thumbs up on that? So what happens is you realize, hey, there is some repetition going on. This is exactly what coding is good for. So let's store this somewhere. Let's store the string in the computer's memory. Let's give it a name. And then we can reuse it. So normally in programming, we call this process an assignment, and we call the names variables. We will call it my string. You can say that again, and we'll print it a couple of times. Okay. What happened is I named the string, my string, named it a couple of times. We can also call this something else. We could call this my string without an underscore. Some people like to do my string with a capital. This is called Pascal. Is this a Pascal? There's Camel and Pascal case. I don't think this is Pascal case. For now, we will just use the underscore. As long as it's a single string, you're fine. Let's have a look. And here's what happened. The output is the same in the first two and the last two cases. We didn't have to type the whole string out, just the name of the string. This is more interesting, of course, if you're actually saving some space. Yeah, like for example, if we do something like that, it's a bit more saver. Excellent. Let's move this over here. And now is the question of how do we use this? Let's have an actual example. So for example, let's have a name. Yeah. Who would like me to use their name as the example? And then we will print something like my name is with a space. Then we will add the variable. And then let's finish the sentence with something like, I don't know, dot. Cool. And we will also put something like, oops, wow. Let's say the space, last name. So who would like their name to be used? Okay, Darlai's colleagues said yes. Okay, great. Awesome. Colleagues said, okay, we'll say. Okay, and now we're starting to program. My name is Darlise Calixte. Wow, Darlise Calixte. Darlise Calixte is a really beautiful name. Yay, wonderful. So we're starting to reuse code here. Okay, it's not yet very complicated, but the fact is we have stored this somewhere in the memory of the computer. If I type name now, nothing will happen because I'm in the command line. So you have to realize that this variable lives inside the programming. Actually, it's called the runtime. So the Python interpreter will save this in memory, and it will only exist until this program exits, and then it's gone. Well done, Darlise. Can we get some thumbs up for Darlise or claps? Lowercase and underscore. You know, everybody, there are some best practices. JavaScript is very heavily, you do lowercase start and then large case in every word, so it's more camel casey. Awesome. Tikviza, Sandra, and Kat. Great, giving you. Also, we can also just assign an object to a variable, and we can reassign a different object to a variable. That's why we call them variables. Let's have something like that. So let's say composer, Mozart, and we'll just print composer. And let's change now the composer. So we'll change composer to be Beethoven, but we won't do anything with it. Let me just undo that. So right now all we should see is Mozart. Excellent. Now what happens if we reassign and then we print again? Let's say, but I prefer composer. Actually, I prefer Tchaikovsky, but anyway, let's switch. Let's get programming. So I will use Tchaikovsky. Cool. Feel free to vote on your favorite composer while we do this. I prefer composer, space, personally. It might be good to add a comma as well. Okay, now what's happening here is we have composer twice in the print and we reassigned the value. What do you think will happen? So you see, what you don't see in between, and that's where the programming happens, is that Mozart was composer at first, and now composer means Tchaikovsky. And this may look deceivingly simple, but if you're a beginner, can I emphasize how revolutionary this is? This is the difference between HTML and CSS and for example, JavaScript and scripting languages. So HTML, as the name says, is hypertext markup language. It's a markup. It's static. Once you write it and push it, it's done. It cannot think. It cannot change. It's like a document. HTML and CSS are documents. They are made and they are static. You cannot interact with them. There is nothing you can change. And this here, what you're doing, assigning a variable and changing it and then rerunning, is what makes programming possible. And this is why JavaScript was so revolutionary, because the web in the beginning, when you know, like the beginning in terms of us being able to use it, was just lots and lots of static pages. And it was revolutionary when a user could actually enter something into a box and that was sent to the server and they could get something back. Like that was just completely changed the web. And look at what we have. Now we have browsers that I actually can stream video to you. You can hear my voice, you can see my screen. So it might look very simple, but this is really the crux of the matter. And today's lesson is around this variable assignment. So let's go on and have a few other variables. We can also have calculations inside variables. So what you learned, and what I'd like you to practice, is you can have numbers. So let's say, who would like to use their name again? Tikviza, would you like me to use your name? Marta Bodoira needs a mentor. Awesome, awesome. Snake cases, yeah. Yeah, okay, so Tikviza, we'll use Tikviza's name for the next variable. And we'll say, I don't know, because you just came to VIP, let's say, we'll say, okay, maybe username, yeah? Maybe Tikviza, it would be nice if you changed your username to, or whatever it was, I'm just saying maybe it was Tikviza, plus VIP inside of the Discord channel so people can see it. And now if we print out username, and we should see that coming up. So what's happening here is we actually have an assignment. We are calculating something and then saving it, assigning it into the variable. We can also do numbers. So let's say, I don't know, score. The score could be 5 times 1 plus, I don't know, 8. Yeah? If we print the score, sorry, print screen. If we print the score, we'll have what we calculated out here. It's fantastic. Now please note that there are no parentheses, and there are no, sorry, not parentheses, there are no quotation marks around score. If I actually wrote print score, then I lost my ability to access the storage, because actually I'm just writing out the string. So this is the difference between the string and the variable. Is that clear? So score without the parens is the actual variable. If you put parens on it, it will just write out whatever is within the parens. Cool. Let's try something tricky. Are you okay? I think I will finish up here. Let's do a little bit something tricky. var1 will equal the number 8. Can you see it if it's so low? Let me just add some space. Cool. var1 will equal to the second variable will equal the first one. Okay? And let's print them out and see how they go. Okay. What do you expect? Let's actually remove these for now. Well, not remove, but we'll comment them out. So that's fine so far. We says A and 8. But now let's do a little bit something tricky, and let's reassign. We'll print an empty line. Now let's reassign. So var1, I will change it to a string. I'll say 8. And let's put them out both. So here's the question. There are two possibilities. If I run this, which one do you think will happen? There are two possibilities. One of the possibilities is that only var1 has changed. So var1 changes, but var2 doesn't change. The other possibility is that because var2 is storing, we store the value of var1 into var2, then both of them will change. And we might end up with number 8, and then we'll end up with the letter 8. Let's run it and see. And what you see here is quite important. This means it's assignment by value and it's not assignment by object. So you can, this is maybe a bit more advanced, but as a beginner you can just notice the pattern. Is if we reassign this previous variable var1, it doesn't change the value of var2 anymore. Okay, maybe it's even nicer if we call these old and new. I actually would prefer old, new. Okay, and then the old one, I'm going to change it to cat because I like cats, or 8 cats. So old has changed, and the truth is unless we change new again to old and we reassign this value, the new one doesn't change. It stays the same. And what's funny about that is now that new comes become the new old. Cool. This is a really important point. And in JavaScript, there are differences around this depending on what you assign, because in JavaScript you can actually assign values also by pointers. But for now, if you're a beginner, this is fine. Just know that if you reassign a variable, it will not affect the other variable, because variables point to values and never to other variables or objects. This is the end for me today. I don't have exercises for you. If you are ready to tackle more, then what you can do is okay, I'll give you a few things to try. No, I won't. I will give you tomorrow. What I would like to ask you is to make sure that everybody has Python installed, and if you're ready, then you can start hacking on your continent counter. I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint here just to make sure. We said 11 by 11 world in Civilization 3. What does 11 by 11 world mean? It means a little matrix, really. And how you can implement it is up to you. You may be able to do it as, let's say, zeros and ones. You may be able to implement it as little O's and X's. The point is, in Civilization 3, there are two types of tiles, water and land. We only want to count the land, of course. And you can travel diagonally. Okay, so if you're standing on a piece of land and there is a little island or peninsula actually going out diagonally, that is part of your land mass and you need to calculate it. Okay, that's the hint for the hackathon. And I would say if you're a total beginner and you don't understand what this question is, again, grab a mentor, go through this hackathon description and ask them, hey, how would you do it? It's possible that your mentor won't know either, but it will be very helpful to you to see their thinking method and maybe how they are starting to go about researching it. Okay, fantastic. I'll see you after a little break for the Q&A. Thank you, everybody. Well done, well done. This was Ilona Budapesti from 1 Million Women to Tech, from Oxford, UK to the world, on week 1, day 2. Bye.